Hello all and welcome back to my channel. I am Rebecca Bhattacharya and I will be continuing with my deep learning playlist. In my previous lecture I have already told you about the different weight initialization techniques, that is the uniform distribution, the Xavier or the Glodot distribution and the Hay unit distribution. In this lecture I am going to tell you about the dropouts in neural networks and why we use dropouts in neural networks. So I will be telling you about all the parts of the dropout, that is why we use dropout in neural networks, what is the overfitting problems, and how the dropout layers helps in reducing the overfitting problem. So if you like this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. So let's start with the first part, that is why we use dropout in neural networks. Now I've already told you in my previous lecture that when we are using a multi-layer neural networks, there can be large number of hidden layers. There can be 2, 3, or there can also be 1,000 hidden layers. Now what happens when the number of hidden layers increases and when we go deeper inside the neural networks, as the neural network becomes more deeper, then in that case each of the neurons is learning the features and as it goes deeper and deeper throughout the neural network, it will learn the features so perfectly that it will have a negative impact on the output. That means it will learn the features, it will train the features too well or too perfectly that the predicted output will be somewhat different from the actual output. So in that case the predicted output will not be equal to the actual output and it will have a negative impact. So this is actually called the overfitting problem. Means overfitting actually means that when our neural networks become so deep, and as we go deeper throughout the neural networks, the training becomes so well or so perfect that it results in a wrong prediction of the output. So it actually produces a negative impact on the output. So in order to reduce this, we actually use the dropouts in the neural networks, which is actually done by excluding some of the features from the neural networks so that the neurons will not learn all the features again and again, and it will not produce a negative impact on the output, and it will perform the proper or the correct prediction of the output. So now how we use this dropout in order to reduce overfitting. Now before going to this, I am going to tell you about what is the dropouts in neural networks. Now you can see here that is this is the standard neural network. You can see here that this is the input layer consisting of 5 neurons, and the second 2 layer is the hidden layer consisting again of 5 neurons, and the last neuron is the output layer. So the last layer is the output layer. So this is actually the standard neural network. In our practical case, in deep learning actually the hidden layers will not be actually equal to 2. In our practical case it can be 100 or thousands. It will be much more larger and the neural networks will be deeper and deeper. It depends on actually the complexity of the problem. So in our practical case the number of hidden layers will not be 2. But for your simplicity, in order to explain you, I have taken only 2 hidden layers so that you will understand the concept of the dropout well. Now this is actually the standard neural network. Now what is a dropout? So consider this figure. Now you can see here that this is again the same picture, but in my input layer, the first layer, that is the input layer, I have put a cross mark on 2 neurons. You can see that I have put a cross mark on each of the layers. In the first layer I have put cross mark on 2 neurons. In the second layer or the hidden layer I have put cross mark on 3 neurons, like this. So what are these cross marks? These cross marks actually indicates that this particular neuron is deactivated. So how this deactivation is done? Now the neural networks will select a subset of features from the 5 features, and it will deactivate or it will eliminate the remaining features. So this is actually the concept of dropout, where the neural networks will randomly select some subset of features or subset of neurons, and the remaining neurons or the remaining features are deactivated. So here it is indicated by the cross mark. So this is the concept of the dropout. You can see here that in the first layer or the input layer, 2 neurons are deactivated. In the hidden layer, first hidden layer, 3 neurons are deactivated. In the third layer of the hidden layer, 2 neurons are again deactivated. Now you can see here that I have written here p is equal to 0.5. Now what is this p? Now since these neurons are deactivated, this deactivation of the neurons is based on a ratio which is called the dropout ratio p. P is actually the dropout ratio based on which the number of neurons, the neuron will get deactivated. Since I have taken here the dropout ratio to be 0.5, so I have deactivated the neurons accordingly. You can see here that in my first layer, out of 5 neurons, I have deactivated only 2 neurons. In my second layer or the hidden layer 1, I have deactivated only 3 neurons out of 2 neurons. Again in my third layer or the hidden layer 2, I have deactivated only 2 neurons. So this is actually the usefulness of the dropout ratio. Now based on this dropout ratio, this deactivation is done. So out of 3 neurons I have deactivated 2, so approximately it will be 0.5. the probability will be 0.5. So like this I have deactivated the neurons. Now one thing you can see here, that the neurons which are deactivated is not connected to any other neurons. You can see here that the second neuron in the input layer is not connected to any other neurons. Again, the third neuron in the input layer is not connected to any other neurons, so it is actually deactivated. Again, you can see here that the first neuron in the second hidden layer is not connected to any other neurons, but the neurons which are activated, means the first neuron in the input layer is connected to all the other neurons which are deactivated, but will not be connected to the neurons which is not activated. Means you can see here that the first neuron, that is the first neuron in the hidden layer, in the input layer, is connected to the second neuron of the hidden layer 1, since it is activated, but it is not connected to the first neuron of the hidden layer 1, since it is deactivated. So in this way the neurons are connected to each of the other neurons which are activated. Now this is the case for the forward propagation. You can see here that we are going from the input layer, then hidden layer 1, then hidden layer 2, then the output layer. So this is actually going in this direction. So this is actually the forward propagation. Now what happens in backward propagation? I have already told you that in backward propagation the weights are updated in order to reduce the loss function. Now backward propagation means it will back propagate through the neural network, and what happens in this case is that the weights will be updated only for those neurons which are activated. Suppose means this in the hidden layer 2, you can see that only the first neuron, the third neuron, and the fifth neuron is activated, right? So only the weights for those 3 neurons in the hidden layer will be updated, and the weights for the remaining 2 neurons which are deactivated, that is the second neuron and the fourth neuron, will not be updated. Again, if you move to the hidden layer 1, you will see that the weights for the weights for neurons, second neuron and the fifth neuron in the hidden layer 1 will be updated, but the weights for the first, this third and fourth will not be updated. Again, the same case in the input layer also, the weights will be updated for the first, fourth and the fifth neuron, but not for the second and the third neuron. So remember one thing, that in the back propagation algorithm, the weights will be updated only for those neurons which are activated, and it will not be updated for the neurons which are not activated or which are deactivated. Now this is actually the case for one iteration. The forward propagation and again the backward propagation, I've already told you, is considered as one epoch or one iteration. So in the first iteration, I have deactivated the second and third neuron. I have deactivated like this, and again I have updated the weights using the back propagation only for those neurons which are activated. Now what will happen in the next iteration? In the next iteration, again some random features will be selected, or random neurons will be selected based on the dropout ratio, and again the remaining of the neurons will get deactivated, and based on that the forward propagation will take place, and in the backward propagation the weights will be updated only for those neurons which are activated. So this is actually the case for the training phase. Now the whole thing occurs, the deactivation of neurons occurs in the training phase. Now what will happen in the testing phase? What will happen? Now you can see here that these two neurons, that is the second and the third neurons in the input layer, is deactivated, right? Now what will happen in the testing phase is that in the testing phase, the neurons, the deactivated neurons will get connected to each of the neurons. As you can see that I am connecting the deactivated neurons in the input layer, that is the second neuron, to all the neurons. So the deactivated neurons will get connected, again this will get connected to this and like this. So all the neurons will get connected to each of the neurons irrespective of the deactivated or activated neurons, and after the connection of the neurons, the dropout ratio or the probability, that is p, in my case it is 0.5. so the dropout ratio or p is equal to 0.5, that is the dropout ratio will get multiplied with the initial weights. In case of activated neuron, it will be the updated weights, and in case of the deactivated neurons, it will be the initial weight. So it will get actually multiplied, the dropout ratio will get multiplied with each of the weights in each of the layers. Now as you can see here, that as I have eliminated the some of the neurons in each of the iterations, I am eliminating some of the neurons and I am selecting a subset of features, so the neural networks are getting trained properly, and it is not getting trained too perfectly because I am eliminating some of the features and I am not allowing the neural networks to train a certain feature over and over again, and to cause the overfitting problem. So you can see that since it is getting trained well and not too perfectly and or not too well, so it will produce the predicted output correctly. Now in my practical applications, I will show you how this dropout works and what is the importance. I will show you that without using the dropout, the predicted output will get somewhat distorted, and when I will be using dropout, then you will be able to see that the predicted output there will be more equal or will be more nearer to the actual output. Now in my previous lecture, I will be starting with the basics of Python, because I have already told you that I will show you the practical implementations using Python only, that is the object detection, TensorFlow, Keras. So before going to that in-depth portion of the TensorFlow and Keras and convolutional neural networks, you should know some basics of Python, otherwise you won't understand that part. So in my next lecture I will start with the basics of Python, and I will start from the installation and setup of Python, and I will be using here Anaconda. So I will be showing you the installation and setup of Anaconda, and after that I will be showing you some basics of Python for my next few videos. And after completion of the basics of Python, I will be then telling you about the remaining theoretical part, that is the optimizers and also the convolutional neural network, hyperparameter tuning, the fast RNN and CNN and all those portions. And after completion of the theoretical part, I will be showing you the in-depth practical implementations, and that is the TensorFlow and Keras, which are the deep learning frameworks. I will be starting with you with the deep learning frameworks, but before going to that TensorFlow and Keras part, you must know the basics of Python, otherwise you won't understand that part. So from my next lecture I will be starting with Anaconda, with the basics of Anaconda Python, and I will be starting with the installation and setup. So if you don't know, or if you don't have Anaconda installed in your computer, then you can refer to my video in order to install and set up Anaconda. So that's all for this lecture. See you in my next video. Thank you.